Whoever said this Dolby Digital 5.1 and soundbar stuff was easy, they were liars. So I don't even know where to begin on this one, because the problem that I ran into came after I had solved the issue of getting Dolby Atmos to my Sonos Arc, which I solved that problem, and that's a video in the future to come. So today we're going to be talking about specifically the Panasonic Viera Plasma TV. It has 3 HDMI inputs and 1 ARC channel HDMI, which is the audio return channel. I'm going to be dealing with the Apple TV, and it's not the 4K version. And I'm going to be using the Sonos Playbar, which has optical in only for audio source. I was using my Sonos Playbar with the TV, and I was plugging the HDMI cable from the Apple TV into the HDMI port. And I was using the optical out from the TV to my Playbar. I had the audio out from my television set to digital, which should be a pass-through or digital signal. And I had the Apple TV set on automatic. So I would assume if the Apple TV was receiving a Dolby digital signal, it should be sending that out. It should be going through the TV, and Dolby digital should hit my Playbar through the optical cable. That wasn't the case. I was getting PCM stereo 2-channel only. So then became the issue of like, where's the breakdown? What's not working? First thing I did was went into the Apple TV menu. If you go to sound and audio and you go into the audio settings and you can say change, basically you can change it from being an automatic signal out to just always defaulting to Dolby Digital 5.1. That works in some cases, but in this case it didn't work at all. Didn't change anything. Everything was still, a matter of fact, I didn't get any sound. When I'd go to 5.1, no sound at all would make it to the, the way it was plugged in. So I thought, okay, let's go back to automatic on that. And then I went to the Panasonic television section and I tried to look for anything I could, and I couldn't get it to play properly for me at all. So then I thought, well, something's messed up and I'm not getting a pure signal through the TV. So I said, I'll bypass the TV. So what I ended up doing was I got a splitter, HDMI splitter, and it basically has like 4 ports in and 1 HDMI port out, but it would extract audio off of that HDMI signal in. So I had 1 optical cable coming out of the back of the switcher. So I would plug in my HDMI cable into the splitter, and I would take my audio optical, not out of the TV, but out of the splitter straight to my soundbar or Playbar. And that worked. Only when I went back over to the Apple TV and set the audio out default to Dolby Digital 5.1. When I set it to automatic, I just always get stereo PCM. I have a hunch that it's Apple because they've had a lot of upgrades. The Apple TV 4K came out, and they've been changing Apple TV OS a lot. And I have a hunch that Apple has hobbled something a little bit or done something that makes it kind of hard for things to just flow freely. Because I swear it used to be Apple TV 1080p standard resolution box was plugged into my TV, and my optical cable out would bring the Dolby digital sound straight to the Playbar. Doesn't seem like that works anymore. So a couple of things in settings that you should pay attention to when you're going through this. First of all, of course, the Apple TV settings first, and then you want to go into the TV section. There's something that you may want to disable if you have this configuration, because whenever I plugged in my HDMI cable from the splitter to the television has something called CEC, and it has something also called Viera Link. And it enables the remote from the television to control the device, meaning your Apple TV. So the Apple box is being controlled by the television remote, which is cool if that's what you want. But what happens is when you turn the power off on the TV, it turns the power off of the thing connected via HDMI to the TV, which turns the power off to the switch. The switch doesn't auto power on. So when you turn the TV back on, the switch is off, and you think, why don't I have sound or video? And you look behind, you're like, the switch is off. It took me like 3 times to figure out, oh, every time I'm hitting off on the television, it's cutting the switch off. So therefore I lose everything. So what you have to do is go into the Viera tools, and you have to disable the Viera Link, which is disabling that feature, which is kind of a shame because it's kind of neat if it works. But in this case, it didn't work to my benefit. So I disabled it all. And now when I turn off the TV, the switch stays on. When I turn the TV back on, the switch stays on, and it's on in a connected state to the Apple TV. The other thing I like to do with the Apple TV is I like to never let it sleep. because for some reason it seems like when the Apple TV sleeps and it wakes back up, something doesn't go back together. Like it doesn't reinitialize the connection or the 5.1. So it's really confusing. But anyway, talking you through it one more time. Apple TV, set it to never sleep, do the Dolby Digital 5.1 output setting, then go over and get yourself a switch. They're like $20 on Amazon. I'll put a link below. HDMI in, and then you have HDMI out to the TV, and you have optical out to the soundbar. But this disables you from having multiple input devices on your television. So if you've got 2 or 3 things like a Blu-ray, an Apple TV, and a game box, this may not work. You might be stuck with 2-channel stereo unless you can figure out a better way to get this to go through. Now, this is a Panasonic Viera plasma TV, so it's 7 or 8 years old, but it's new enough to where this should be able to handle the pass-through. But for whatever reason, I couldn't get it to work right. I've got one other idea up my sleeve I might try, but if you guys have any good thoughts or ideas on this, let me know. But I've done everything I could, but I finally did get Dolby Digital 5.1 to the soundbar from the Apple TV, the way I have it hooked up with the switch. I'm okay with that. I don't have any other devices in this particular room, but I could definitely see if you wanted to use 2 or 3 devices on the TV and switch between them and have Dolby 5.1 pass through. That makes sense. It should work, but for me, it didn't. So what are your thoughts? Let me know. Thanks. Bye.